Hello everyone, I am Rupam, founder and CEO of Aculi Labs Private Limited, creator of Lifers and author of the book Intimacy Lost for Man, The Birth of the Lugal. One of the key words that works these days is empathy. Everybody seems to claim that they're empath and the others are narcissist. This is a common way that we label ourselves. We label ourselves as empath and others as narcissist. That gives us a high moral ground and that gives us an opportunity to just condemn or criticize others. And in today's episode, that is episode number 32, we are going to learn the difference between empathy and sympathy and how empathy plays a role in the relationships, or do empathy really play a role in the relationship. And in today's episode, I'm going to teach you the complete theory about empathy so that from today onwards, whenever you hear this word, you know what this word really means. What people say empathy means? People say empathy means that they understand others. Let's now understand what is empathy. Empathy is the ability to decode the emotion of the other and to mirror their emotion. Empathy is the ability to decode the emotion of the others and to mirror those emotions. Empathy is the ability to decode the emotion of the others and to mirror that emotion. All of you who have been regular in this channel and regularly attending this class, you know very well the difference between emotion and feelings, don't you? A feelings is a physiological state. Those of you who are new, this is again for you. So, a feeling is a physiological state, current physiological state. Brain senses how the body is feeling, what are the electrical signals in the body, chemical signals in the body, and then accordingly it generates a neurochemical. So, feeling changes every second. Emotion, on the other hand, is the average feeling of a story that is connecting various life events. Many of these life events act as frames in that story, and many of these frames may have negative feelings, some frames may have positive feelings. So it is the transition of that feelings associated with that memory that gives the final emotion. So emotion is the average feeling of a story that connects various incidents and events of life, where each events and incidents has the observation, the sensory data, thinking, contextual data, the situation at that moment, the relationship context of that part of the life, the feelings, the understanding, the meaning understanding of those moments. All of you are watching here. I'm pretty sure that you consider yourself as empathetic, don't you? Can you, can you at this moment decode my emotions? Just take a pause. Can you decode my emotion at this moment? You may say I'm happy. You may say I'm rather happy. But you cannot decode my emotions because you do not know enough about my life. Do you? At this moment, my role as a teacher, my part of the life where I am a teacher, that story, I'm into that story. I do various things. I research, I develop, I mentor people. I'm building my own startup. I do a lot of business activities. But at this moment, my story as a teacher is playing out. Now, why I am teaching? What I am teaching? What is the benefit that I expect out of the teaching? You don't know anything, do you? How can you decode my emotions? You can look into my face and you may think that I am feeling happy. However, however, understanding my feelings is not empathy. Understanding or decoding my expression is not empathy. Let me give you an example. Can you decode the feelings that I am having? No. How I can change or you can change your feelings is if we change the thought process in our brain, we can change the feeling. As we know, feeling can change every second. I just change my feeling at this moment. Just look into my face again and I'm going to load a specific thought in my head and you got to observe very closely how the feeling is changing. Can you decode it? You cannot. Can you decode this? See, you are observing my expression. You'd say I'm angry, but I'm acting. This is expression. Anger. Expression. I'm not really angry at this moment, but this is expression. This is mark. That is, I'm mocking you. But this is expression. This is neither feelings nor emotion. There is no physiological change in my body at this moment. So you see, human ability to detect the physiological change is not natural. It requires a very high degree of intelligence to do that. Extremely high amount of brain processing to do that. You just cannot be empathetic to me at this moment because you do not know what I am thinking, what story I am. You do not know my emotions. What are the emotions associated with the teacher? So, in order to be empathetic, one has to know every details of the life of the other person, every single detail of the life of the other person, which we call the autobiographical memory. You have to know each and every expression of the person. I don't always laugh like this. I prefer to smile like this. Even if I am very happy, I smile like this. Now, it requires significant amount of time to understand how the expression of a person, how the emotions, inner emotions of a person is translating into an expression. Remember, empathy is not the ability to decode anyone's expression. Empathy is the ability to decode other person's emotion and to replicate that, replicating in the sense to be in that story, to put yourself into the shoes of that person. If you do not know my autobiography of the life, if you do not know the autobiography of my life, how would you be even able to empathize with me? You cannot. So, empathy is decoding the emotion. Decoding the emotion means you have to know each and every part of the life of the other person. For you to know the life of the other person has to trust you so immensely that he has to open up all the dark and the white parts of his life. He has to tell you how each of the events, what kind of feelings each of the event gives. Then while somebody is narrating those feelings, you have to observe very carefully what are the expression that the person is giving. Then you have to remember each of this expression with respect to his narration or her narration of the story, what he is narrating. And then you have to repeatedly hear about those story over and over again. So that those story, that autobiographical memory of that person, his feelings, his emotions, concerns, thoughts, everything becomes a unified. So you now have a complete three-dimensional object world of that person. However, when you claim that you are empathetic, have you spent enough time knowing each and every part of the person, even just beside you? Let's say that you are a mother or a father. Do you know what is your son or daughter is thinking or feeling? What is her story? Has she ever narrated you? If you are a girl, have you ever narrated your parents your real concerns, real stories, real fantasies, real worries? You have not. Understand, empathy is an extraordinarily energy exhaustive process of the brain. When I work with various patients, I have to know their entire life. It takes hours after hours after hours after hours just to ask them about their story, to understand them, to listen to them, to hear them. It takes 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to understand even a single person. And so, if you want to start understanding the story of each and every person on and around you, imagine the amount of brain load you'll have. Do you have that much time? Have you ever heard somebody's story for 10 hours? Tell me, has somebody in your life narrated their story for 10 hours? Has anybody done that? You discuss about a lot of things, sports, politics, neighbor, colleagues, but are you comfortable discussing your life with others? Do you discuss your life with others? Do you share your real emotion with others? Do you share what is it that you actually feel against your father? Do you do that? You don't know. So understand, empathy is an extremely energy exhaustive function of the brain. If you are to just be empathetic with me tomorrow, you have to in fact spend entire day today researching about me, reading me, learning me, digging out my life, watching all the videos, and it would take you 1 month of time to just understand me to a degree. and then you can become empathetic to me. Instead, what we generally do is we have a specific type of neuron which is called mirror neuron. There is a phenomenon called physiological coupling. Every human being has that phenomenon. As you are listening to this class, all of your heart rate is going to go slow. You are going to feel much more relaxed. You are going to feel much more comfortable. If you have managed to watch this class up to this point, because your brain is will start operating at the frequency that my brain is operating. Because my brain's frequency is very slow, your brain is going to slow down. That is going to slow down your heart. So you're going to feel much more comfortable, much more relaxed. You'll feel little healed. This is the phenomenon of energy exchange, mirror neuron and physiological coupling. This really doesn't have anything to do with anything to do with empathy, because people can fake their expression. You cannot detect emotion from the expression. If you are a girl, how many times you have given a fake smile in a social gathering? You're not feeling happy, but you are smiling. Yes, you're meeting people, you are smiling. People are assuming that you are happy, but in your brain, you're thinking about something. Haven't you done that? So now, all these people who are around you will think that you are happy and are going to interact with you considering that you are happy. And you will feel extremely violent and vulgar that these people, they are narcissistic, they don't understand, they don't have empathy, they cannot see the real me. They cannot see because most of us, we conceal our real us. We do conceal our real us mostly because we do not even know who are we. How much time have you spent discovering yourself? Not that easy. You cannot be empathetic to even yourself because you do not understand your life very well. You have never got time. Your parents from the childhood told you who you are, go to class, read, study. Your school teachers told you what to study, how to study, what to remember, how to remember. Then you immediately looked for the job or a profession. Then your colleagues or your boss told you what. So you never had enough time to think who you are. From your childhood, did anybody ask you who you are? People ask you what you do. People ask you what you want to become. People look at you as an object. How many people you meet, you ask, who are you? Who are you, in a sense? Not question, who are you to ask me? How many of you have asked this question to anybody else in life? Who are you? Who really you are? Tell me. How many of you? You have not asked, right? Nobody has asked you. How can you become empathetic if you do not know who you are and you do not know what the other person is? You're feeling little bit negative, little bit sad, little bit resistive at this moment. I can decode that. Not because I'm a magician, because I have spent enough time doing that. Wherever you are, I can now know that you'll be feeling little resistive. You'll feel little sad, but few of you who are really childlike, who really wants to learn, who really explore, they will feel very good. You always looked at people who call themselves empathetic as with a lot of doubts. Didn't you? So, my dear friends, students, girls, and guys, please do not use the word empathy abundantly. You're making a mockery of yourself. Empathy is an executive function. It requires tremendous observation skill. You have to develop that observation skill. You have to develop the observation skill by means of which you can see beyond those masks of the people. It requires tremendous amount of processing skills. You got to know how to decode various situations. You have to have a very high degree of intellect. You have to have a great degree of literary skills, because inside the literature only the author narrates how a character is thinking. So you have to have a tremendous amount of reading of the literature to know at a particular situation how a person may be thinking. So you got to have the scientific knowledge, you got to have a literary knowledge, you got to have tremendously high amount of energy, memory. You got to have super charged memory to remember a lot of details of the life of the other people. Because if you do not know, if you do not have that memory, then you cannot make a three-dimensional view of the life of that person, and particularly his different stories. So you cannot know what is his average emotions. Do you really have that much of brain capacity or energy? Have you invested that brain capacity? Have you ever asked people who you are and spend hour after hours understanding who the person really is? You know what that person is. You know either the person is narcissistic, psychopathic, because you have seen some YouTube videos, you have read some books. You can label people: good doctor, bad doctor, decent person, not decent person, angry person. You know those labels. That is not empathy. That is your shortcut. That is your brain's shortcut. You are labeling people. Labeling people is not empathy. If somebody is sad, that is his feeling. He necessarily, let's say somebody writes in the social media, please help me, I need a job, I have been jobless for last 6 months. My mother is suffering with cancer, I need money, please help me. How do you know that is true? How much you know about that person? How much have you investigated about that person? Do you know anything about her mother? Do you know anything about her life? Do you know whether she has cheated or not? Do you know whether she lies or not? Do you know whether she in reality is jobless or not? But you react. You see those posts and you write, oh my god, it is so sad. Commenting for better reach. You must have a job. Girl, you deserve a job. No, that's not empathy. That's labeling. You assumed that she is correct. You assume that she really is suffering. That is your assumption. That is your shortcut brain. In order for you to be empathetic with the girl who has written that post, you have to spend at least 10 hours investigating about her, talking to her, understanding her life story. Would you do that? Would you do that? Do you do that? So that's not empathy. That's a shortcut brain. That's your brain's shortcut brain. And the way that you label that girl, that yes, she is sad, she deserves a job, she is suffering, that is your labeling. You are reacting to her post. You are not processing that information rationally and logically. The way you label that girl as a sufferer, you label yourself as an empath. You label yourself, that's a label. Whenever people start labeling anything, there is a shortcut brain that's called lazy brain. Females have lazy brains because we already know through these episodes, that they have an ovarian system and that takes tremendous amount of their energy. If they start putting that much pressure on their brain, their reproductive system will collapse. So they cannot. So their brain is lateral brain. It's a spread brain, but a man's brain is a depressed brain. Neurons spread. A man's brain consumes a lot more energy, and a man's metabolic rate is much more higher than the females. Average female cannot eat as much as a man, and she cannot digest as much as a man. You know these factors. This doesn't require a very deep scientific knowledge for you to know. So the female brain is a lazy brain because her gut microbiome, her vaginal microbiome, her ovarian system, that is very energy extensive. She has to keep this ready, right? But there is no reason for a man's brain to be lazy brain. Guys prefer lazy brain because they've been trained by modern lazy brains like teachers and educators who gives you the label. Just by reading some Tagore's poetry, people think that they can understand Tagore. Reading Ramayana, people think that they can understand Ramayana because they have studied Ramayana very thoroughly. Unless and until you go through the journey that Ram has gone through, you do not understand Ramayana. You cannot be empathetic to Jesus because you have not been crucified. You have not seen other people's being crucified in front of your eyes. So what you are thinking as empathy, in reality, is a labeling brain, is a believing brain. You believe that the girl who wrote that post is empathetic. You believe that. You did not cross check. You did not talk to that girl. You did not spend time. You did not ask that girl who you are. Tell me more about your life. Narrate your life. Narrate all the autobiography. You did not do that. That's a shortcut lazy brain. Shortcut lazy brain cannot be empathetic brain. There are two types of empathy, structural empathy and functional empathy. A functional empathy tries to detect the feeling of a person. A structural empathy, on the other hand, tries to detect it's a general state of the brain. Either a brain is empathetic brain or non-empathetic brain. So a structural empathy tries to understand a person. A functional empathy, on the other hand, tries to decode the feeling. So when you are feeling bad because you have read that post, it is your functional empathy, which is a feeling based empathy, that is getting active. That is also important. That's not the whole story of the empathy. You are just giving, you are just feeling the way the other person is feeling, and that's natural. That's not empathy. That's called physiological coupling. The way your heart rate, and you can do this any number of times. You can check your heart rate. Sit with the video. After 1 hour, check your heart rate. Your heart rate will slow down. Write in the comment below. That's natural human phenomenon. Whether the one you are calling narcissist, or yourself, or I, or a small child, everybody has this phenomenon embedded into them. This is mirror neuron and physiological coupling. Functional empathy is a phenomenon of physiological coupling, psychophysiological coupling. And if physiology is coupled, that is your heart acts the way my heart acts, of course your brain wave will be having as much frequency as my brain wave. It will slow down at this moment, and then you will be feeling almost the way that I am feeling at this moment. You'll be feeling light. That's not empathy. That's physiological coupling. That's functional empathy, which means that you are capable of at this moment feel the way the other person is feeling. Everybody is capable. It's a mirror neuron phenomenon. We all have that. Every child has that. Without that mirror neuron, no child will be able to stand up, because the child sees you and stand up. So he replicates. He learns to talk. If you are able to talk, then you have a mirror neuron. If the person that you are talking to, if he can talk, he has a mirror neuron, because he mimicked the parents to able to learn to talk. So functional empathy is not same as empathy. So in the link in the description below, I am leaving you with a test, self-assessment test, through which you can check how empathetic you really are. If you have ever marked yourself as I'm an empath, then please know that there is no harm. Because we live in a world where everybody is manipulating everybody is busy lying, because if they lie, if they give you the validation, if a psychologist tell you that you are really empathetic and your husband is not, then you give money to the psychologist. But if the psychologist tells the truth, then you don't go to that psychologist. There are chances that you are planning, you are already angry against me. That's because I'm saying something which you are not liking. And that's the reason people lie. People want you to like them. People want you to like them. So you either like or dislike. True, false, hate, love. Life is not binary. Life is much more complex, fuzzy. It's not binary. So the way that you are feeling against me at this moment, because I'm not talking the way that most of your psychologists will talk, they will give you validation. Yes, indeed, you are much more empathetic. Even if you are not, they are not going to do your empathy test and tell you that you are not. The problem is with you. So, understand the first level. This is the first class on empathy. In the first class, I want you to get over this keyword empathy from your relationship. This is a very deadly keyword, because if you claim that you are an empathetic, your IQ has to be seriously very high. You have to have tremendous scientific studies. You have to have a scientific contribution. You have to have a literary contribution. You must be a thinker. You have to have a tremendously great memory. And if you have all of this, you will not even be able to get up from the bed at times. Overthinking is not thinking, it's not intellect. Knowing keyword artificial intelligence is different from really able to build something with artificial intelligence. Reading Tagore's poetry is entirely different from the ability to write a poetry. Reading about Jesus in Bible is entirely different from living his life, and unless and until you do that, you cannot be empathetic. It is hard to be empathetic, and that's okay. It is hard to know each and every person's, each and every story of the life, and to remember those feelings. That's an extensive amount of memory overload. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be empathetic. Don't claim to be empathetic. False self-image kills people. False self-image kills people, because if you have a false self-image, you are seeing the world from a completely false prism, and so you are going to see everything wrong, because you are looking at yourself as a wrong. You are seeing yourself as an empathetic person. Labeling itself is narcissism. That's grandiosity. If you have not published so many papers, if you have not read so many literature, if you have not served thousands of people, if you have not lived with people, and yet you think that you have the ability to decode somebody's emotion, which takes months to decode. If you think your ability to decode those emotions in 1 second or 10 seconds is high, then what is it? You are considering yourself to be Nobel laureate Tagore, plus Nobel laureate Albert Camus, plus a scientific brain like Albert Einstein, plus a creator like Michelangelo. You are seeing yourself as a combination of Einstein, Michelangelo, as a combination of somebody who can remember everything, say Shakuntala Devi. So you are assuming yourself to be a superhuman, and then there are those who come to YouTube and public channel and they claim themselves as super empath. Come on, you just cannot see yourself as a mixture of Einstein and Michelangelo. That is stupidity. That is going to hurt you. You are who you are. You are not empath, right? You are yourself. Yourself. Do not have to be empathetic to everybody at every moment. You have to just know yourself. Know yourself. First become empathetic to yourself. Know who you are. Know your entire life story. Can you narrate your entire life story? Without judging people, without feeling bad. Can you narrate your entire life's autobiography? It is hard for us to remember even our own life. How do you remember other people? So please understand that you don't have to be an empathetic or super empath. They have a false self-image. They are seeing themselves as a combination of Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Shakuntala Devi, Tagore, Albert Camus, and one who sees himself or herself as a combination of Einstein, Michelangelo, Albert Camus. You know what that self vision is. That is grandiosity. There is a larger than life, non real version of yourself. If you look into yourself and if you think you are non real, if you are having some kind of such versions where you are non real, then you are going to suffer. Please, those guys who wants to start living, get the book Intimacy Lost for Man. Take your journey. Become a man. Become a man. That's all for today. Thank you for investing your real emotion, time, energy into learning. See you tomorrow with a new episode.